Thank you, Chair, and thank you, President Lagarde, for being here again. I would like to ask you a question on the climate change aspect. In a recent blog, you wrote together with Fatih Birol, President of the International Energy Agency, and Werner Hoyer, President of the European Investment Bank, you wrote, and I quote, "Europe must accelerate the green transition to remain globally competitive." And you added, "If Europe fails to join the global energy revolution, its competitiveness will be irreparably damaged." End of quote. In addition, your colleague board member Frank Elderson recently stated, actually during a period of national campaigning in the Netherlands, that he was glad with the European climate law, glad with the Fit for 55 package, and that he was glad with the EU nature restoration law, even before it was voted in the European Parliament. So, and he added that, and I quote, "We need to go faster and put out all the stops to stop climate change." Now, I think, obviously, what you said in your introductory statements, I think that indeed climate change could have an effect on financial and macroeconomic risks. I agree with that. But don't you think these are quite strong statements, and you risk of being pulled into what is called the political debate and something outside your mandate? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hugoven, for this question. And it gives me a chance to clarify without any doubt that our primary objective, our mandate, is price stability. And it prevails over any other objectives of any type. But we still have, within the primary objective, the requirements to include all components that will help us determine what is the macroeconomic situation, to use our models in the most efficient way in order to prepare for monetary policy decisions. And we also have, without prejudice to the first objective, which remains the prevailing one, we have the secondary objectives, which is to accompany and support the economic policies that is decided by other institutions than ours. So it's very simple for us. It's primary objective that embeds in its technicalities and complexity elements of climate change, no question about that, and secondary objectives, which is only without prejudice to the first objective. And I think that, I don't think that I have ever given a speech, that I have ever written anything in relation to climate change and monetary policy without having prefaced always, as I have actually in the remarks that I just gave, that for us it is very clear. It is the responsibility of governments, of parliaments, potentially of the judicial powers, but certainly not that of the ECB as primarily responsible for climate change. It's a tangential obligation that we have, both under the primary and the secondary objectives of our mandate relating to price stability. But in doing so, we try to identify where we can act, within which parameters, involving other actors, and whether it is the tilting of our portfolio, whether it will be in 24 the assessment of the collateral that we receive, whether it is the supervision that acts under the auspices of the SSM, whether it is the improvement of our models. We always try to be as comprehensive and as accurate as possible. And I'm using the term accurate because I'm especially attentive to the availability and quality of the data on which we can base our considerations. That is something which hopefully will continue to improve, but which is not yet at a stage where we can sufficiently rely on them in order to move in certain directions. So I call on you, actually, to help us in relation to quality and quantity of the data available in order to include both in our risk management as well as in our portfolio management the appropriate climate change considerations. Thank you.
Quick follow-up, yes.
Yeah, a short follow-up. and thank you for your answer. And I understand what you're saying. At the same time, the energy transition, as you put in your blog and as was put forward by your colleague Frank Elderson, is about the energy transition and about accelerating the energy transition and doing more on climate policies. Isn't that fundamentally a political discussion? The way in which we stipulate and form our energy transition. So, for example, my group is very much of the opinion that the current way, the direction we are going, will actually be a risk to competitiveness of the European economy. If we look at, for example, the investments in wind turbines, we recently saw that Siemens decided to stop using wind energy after the group lost 4.5 billion euros in its wind businesses. So wouldn't it be more, well, wise is a bit of a suggestive term, but wouldn't it be more careful as central bankers to refrain from engaging into what we believe is a highly politicized debate and focus more actually on the core aspects of your mandate, and that is indeed the price stability, and try to stay away from pushing for a certain direction of the policies and the political debate? Thank you.
No, again, price stability is our compass, it's our goal, it's our target, and I will not, repeat that enough. But it's not for us to debate decisions that have been made in trilogue or otherwise. And if the green transition is something which has been approved and agreed at the highest level of other institutions within the European Union, as has the digital transition been as well, I cannot argue with that. It has been decided, and it belongs to, the public good policies, if you will. And as a result, we have to pay attention to them and include that in our secondary objectives.